I'm rambling a little bit, but
it's all good.
These are the things that I try to, my point being, I think initially was that like dealing with a child has really helped me to be able to put myself in somebody else's shoes in certain situations. And I feel like lately I've been more able to say, what was my role in how this situation played out? What could I have done differently, or what did I do to cause this? And if it is something that's my fault, I'll own it, take responsibility for it, and accept whatever consequences come my way.
Dude, you talking right now, it so after the podcast last week, we were outside and we talked for a while.
We did, yes.
And you had said something to me, kind of like, I don't mean to say this in any, like, not anything bad about you, but you just have you to take care of, and
right,
you're not a father, and I'm a father. I have these responsibilities, and it, like, especially right now as you're talking, I've started to realize, like, my perception of you has been changing a little bit.
Yeah,
in a good way.
All right,
like. We've been coworkers for a while.
We have,
and we've had this like cool back and forth for a while too. And we respect each other, and we want each other to do well in everything that we're doing.
I'd say so.
But like it just clicked into my head that like Eric's not just some guy that works at a bar. Like Eric is like this fucking amazing dad who really cares about the relationship that he has with his son, and like just hearing you talk about, like, you saying, I want to cultivate a relationship that my son is not afraid of showing his emotions and he can be himself around me. Like, it, I was like, holy shit, like he's pretty fucking epic. I don't know. There's a lot of different words and things.
I appreciate you saying that, and I just, I don't know. I'm just, because maybe it comes from like not having my father around when I was a kid. So I know how important it is for, and as I've gotten older, I've repaired, my father and I have mended fences, and we have a better relationship now than we did when I was younger. But, just growing up without that, without him around, like, I don't ever want to get to a point where he can say to me, well, you weren't there, so you don't know. Yeah. I don't ever want that to happen.
Right.
And I think boys in particular are conditioned from an early age that you have to be strong. You have to, you can't show it being sad is weakness.
Right,
Crying is weak.
Yeah.
You have to be strong.
Yeah.
And I don't buy that. Yeah. I feel like it's not weak to cry. I cry all the time. It doesn't take a lot, especially if I'm in any particular kind of, like, because I don't know that I'm like depressed, like in the clinical sense, but I feel very blah a lot of the time. And it doesn't take, like, I could watch that episode of The Fresh Prince. I don't know if you watched that show at all.
Yeah,
definitely. All right, the episode where, like, his father comes to town and they're gonna go on this trip, and then he leaves, and Will starts yelling at Uncle Phil, but like he's really yelling at his father. Every time, I cry like a baby at that scene. And when I was younger, I would try not to. I would, because again, we're programmed as men that we have to be, we have to be the strong one. We have to blah blah blah. But
bulletproof.
Yeah, but that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, that's why so many men smack their wives around, or they drink, or drink to the point that it's a problem. Because I'll have the occasional cocktail, but I don't. Anyway. So I want to try and break the cycle with him. And because I don't want him to be one, like, he said something about I think I was getting my car looked at because I was getting ready to take a road trip, and he was with me, and there was another father and son in the waiting room, and the other kid had shoes that had Mickey and Minnie on them, and my son looked at him and said, "Those are girls' shoes," and I said, "No, they're not." I said, "Look, they've got flames on the sides, Mickey's on one of them. Those are shoes for anybody could wear those shoes. They're not girl shoes." And it's not something. And I said it loud enough that the other kid could hear me say it.
Yeah.
And the kid's father could hear me say it. I was like, "That's not something you do. You don't talk. If you're gonna say something nice." And then I looked at the kid and said, "Those are very nice shoes. They're not girly shoes at all. Don't listen to him." And just like stuff like that I feel like we need to try and like break those preconceived notions or whatever.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much and a lot of guys my age and older are in a place right now in the climate of the Me Too movement and all that stuff where like you can't be a man anymore. You're not what? Now I can't tell you you're pretty. Like, shut up, dude. Shut up. We've been in charge of everything forever.
Yeah.
We've been running shit for centuries.
Yeah.
And finally, women have decided that they're not going to put up with our bullshit anymore. I don't know why they've done it in the first place for so long.
Yeah.
They make us.
Yeah.
Without women, there are no men. So shut the fuck up and stop being a dick.
Yeah.
Like, and that's all I'm trying to get to is that I don't want my son to be a dick.
Yeah.
That's all. Like, I want him to try. I want to do my best to make him a well-adjusted man because I don't think it's weak to show emotion. I don't think it's weak to cry. I don't think it's weak to, get excited when you see a puppy. Like, it's just fucking who decided that being a man was fucking powerlifting and killing things? Like, how...
Yeah.
It boggles my mind that people are so upset about this. And I've gone off on a rant from whatever my original point was. But anyway.
Same rant questions. Did you ever feel like powerlifting and shooting things was manly?
When you're younger, you see things, and maybe I might have a different view because I grew up in a house with my mother, my grandmother, my sister, my grandfather, my uncle, my grandmother, my mother, and my sister. We all lived in one 3-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn after my father left. My grandparents took us in, which to this day I'm grateful for because we probably would have been homeless for a little while because he left us with nothing. Anyway, so I might have a different view on it because I didn't have that like my grandfather is like a man's man, but he wasn't like a macho, like boisterous, loud, like he was a gentle giant. He had a terrible temper, but it took a while to you had to really piss him off before he would raise his voice. Like it took forever. Like I maybe 3 times in my life I ever saw my grandfather lose his temper. But because that's just he was a gentle giant, very quiet man. So I might have a different, just based on my upbringing. But yeah, like there were definitely things that I don't remember why I wanted to do it, but like I wanted to take a dance class when I was a kid. Yeah. I just felt out just something I wanted to do, and then people started making fun of me, and I stopped. And now I got 2 left feet. I'm 36 years old. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So, there were, certain things that, you're not supposed to do because you're a boy and blah, blah, blah. And, it's such antiquated bullshit.
So I don't feel like I ever really was one to conform to that manly man thing, like my dad was never, verbally saying, "Hey, don't show your emotions" or anything like that. And I have that perspective. If you ask my brother, my brother thinks that he has a lot of he's emotionally fucked up because of his relationship with our dad.
Okay.
And it's weird because he sees it that way, and I didn't see it that way. And then
is your brother older than you?
Well, I have an older brother, a younger brother, and they both have similar mindsets.
Okay, so you're in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have an older brother, older sister, younger brother, younger sister.
Okay, so you're right in the middle.
Smack dab in the middle.
Okay.
2 of each on either side. It's pretty cool. But I was closest with both of my sisters. Never that close with either of my brothers.
That makes sense.
Super close with my mom when I was younger, up until about like 18, 19, and then I started to drift away from the entire family for the most part, aside from my sisters. But like, dude, I cheerleaded in high school.
Nice.
I got a lot of shit for it.
I'm sure.
And I, like, even with all the shit that I was given, I still get really bothered when I hear people say fag or call me a fag, because it's like, why?
Yeah, that's a terrible word.
Yeah, it's just rude, and it's not meant to be in jest almost ever, unless you're Matt Bragg and you say it like a certain way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in certain situations, I think, and just to get off topic for just a second, I think words, in certain situations you can get away with stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in context. And obviously, like, it's not, you and I wouldn't throw that word around anyway.
Right.
But if I was talking to somebody like a Matt Bragg, and I might, just based on the conversation, I might go, stop being such a fag. And then he'll look at me and go, excuse me? And then it becomes a whole thing, but we're two comedians, so we're just fucking around with each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And, yes, but it definitely it's still a word that we shouldn't just be flippant with.
And, dude, I got called that so often, and I was like, do you guys realize, like, I am straight hanging out with, like, super hot chicks right now.
Yeah.
I'm the only dude on a bus full of chicks, like, and, like, you're calling me this right now?
Yeah.
Like, my hands have been all over these girls' asses and shit. And, it was, I mean, I had no complaints at all.
Yeah.
Like,
well, because
fantastic.
they don't see it like that.
Yeah,
Because
it's ignorant.
It is, because we get mad and try to attack something about you personally. Like, it just, well, you fucking, you gonna put on a dress, you fucking homo? If I was a cheerleader and that was the uniform, all right, whatever. It's probably more comfortable than wearing pants if you got to be jumping and flipping around.
I never had to do that.
Well, I'm just saying. I don't know what cheerleading entails. My high school didn't have sports.
Okay.
We were an academic-based school. So all I know from cheerleading is what I saw Kelly Kapowski do and then Bring It On. Like, those are my two cheerleading things.
There was some dude cheerleaders in Bring It On, weren't
Yes,
there?
there were.
And they weren't wearing...
No, they weren't wearing dresses. No, they had pants. They were wearing pants. Yeah, whatever it was. I don't know.
Yeah, that's that. I had this big NP...
no problem.
What? Yeah, New Plymouth. what are the letters?
Yeah,
embroidered.
There it is.
Yeah, embroidered on my uniform, and it was. I mean, I felt pretty slick, but back to the point of, like, not conforming to the preconceived ideas of what being.
And it's also about being secure with yourself,
right? And
being because I don't think I would have been able to be a cheerleader. Because I would have been too concerned with what everybody was going to say about me, or I'm going to have to deal with. Because, like, I can dish it out as good as I can take it.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been one to back down from. Like, when I was a kid, I got into fights all the time, like, all the time. Kids on my block, kids in school. I must have just been a very angry kid, or I just had a short fuse. Either way,
combination of the two.
Yeah, or people they would pick on me, and I wasn't gonna just sit there and take it.
Yeah.
You know, so
like you got something to prove.
Yeah. So